What's going on with you music producers? It's Curtis King of CurtisKing.com, and this is a long overdue video. Now, in celebration of my new pack dropping on Splice, I want to break down for you my sound design process, some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way, and some plugins that I specifically used to create this new pack called Westside Rage. You can see in the description I left links to all the plugins that I mentioned. Hope you enjoy it, and I hope you find value in it. In my opinion, the best sounds are created from inside your room, for me at least, using the most natural things that you have at your disposal. This tambourine has textures and sounds that will only sound this way in this room. Take it in any other room, it'll change some characteristics of it. This kabasa was very important to getting textures that if I just add this at the end of a snare, you won't hear it over the snare, right? But you'll know that snare has higher frequencies in it. You'll feel it, if that makes sense. You'll feel it, but you won't necessarily hear it. So let me just kind of walk you through this. When it came to my drum sounds, a lot of the source sounds actually came directly from Splice's plugins. A lot of the melodic stuff came from Astra, and a lot of the drums themselves came from Beatmaker. And they give you all these fire presets depending on what direction you want to go in. And for some people, they may not think this sounds fire. They're like, these are like very at the bare minimum. But that's the point. It's giving you enough creative space to really do whatever it is that you want to do over the top of those. So this is a analog drum machine 808. I want to do this. Let's take this hi-hat and let's render it to an audio clip. I can drag the audio clip directly here in FL Studio. And this is where having an understanding of what you can do with FL Studio is so important. Understanding your channel properties is crucial. This is the first thing that I ended up learning when it comes to sound design. First thing I want to do here is normalize it, because I think I want to turn this into a kick. Next thing I'm going to do is go over here to the effects target, turn down this cut, which is going to take the high off of the top of it. Even something I'll do is I'll take this and I'll just let it loop around. Still sounds like a hi-hat, obviously. But if we go here and we mess with this thing called the pogo effect, it starts to change the way that we see it. Next, we can even change some of the timing in here. I like that already. Next thing I want to do, I want to shape this a little bit. So let's actually take the length now. Now, mind you, I'm walking through this process, not knowing exactly where we're going to go next with it. I'm letting the sound kind of tell me what everything is doing. So it's starting to take on a little bit of a bassier texture. And what ends up happening is that you take a sound like this, and it starts revealing different sounds as you go along with it. So, for instance, let's go here to the parametric EQ. And let's take all that high end off of it just to see. Take some of the low end off of it. And what's going to be dope about this is that as we're kind of just messing just with the EQ right now, we're going to take this sound and we're going to go ahead and consolidate this down, because now we can use this texture to sound like a kick that we don't have in our collection. One of the effects that I really enjoyed using in here for this Westside Rage pack was Decap's Knock, which is obviously made by a fantastic, an amazing sound designer, so it makes life easier. What I like about that is that there's certain parameters here that bring out what you're looking for. Already you starting to see some of the kick come out of this. So now that we have that frequency, we can actually start bringing out some of the bass. And we're not even still in the effects yet. Come on now. That's a crazy 808. So now we have this clean 808 that we made from a hi-hat. This is just a good source sound right now. What I want to do is consolidate this down. So I'm going to go to the third channel here and start to add effects over the top of this. One of my favorite ones is another one called Bite, which traditionally is used for like guitar distortions. But what it does is it reduces the sample rate and kind of gives like a gritty boom bap lo-fi-ish vibe to it. So depending on what instrument you do this on, it could actually create some interesting effects. I like the texture of this one. It takes a little bit of that 808 away. Crazy. This is don't forget, this is a hi-hat that we started off with. Ooh, that's got a little bit of world to it. So then now that we have this is where you get to customize however the hell you want. Like, where do you want to take this? What kind of distortion do you want to add? This is where doing things that are outside the box is welcome. That's mean. Let's do that, and let's actually add. I'm doing the most just to show you that we can do that. Let's do Blood Overdrive as well. Boom. If you want to get a little bit crazy, if you want to get a little crazy. Kind of filters it out a little bit. This was a hi-hat. This is why, like, there's so many different ways to make sounds. It makes no sense to see producers lazily take one sound and just add reverb and be like, yeah, that's my hi-hat. There's so many ways to manipulate one sound. There's no excuse for that. Let's actually add Decap's plugin because I really like the way that it'll shape. So let's actually add. That's disgusting. Okay, so now that we have that, let's actually consolidate that. Now look at how crazy this is. We have this 808, and because I added that decap plugin as the last plugin, now look at this. I basically took the fade out, quick fade out. Now I'm gonna take the length of this and I'm gonna actually touch my keyboard. Now we're gonna take this, cut it. We got a kick. We got a kick. We got a kick. We take that off to the side. I'll put that over here. Let's focus in on just the kick. All right, cool. So now we have this kick. I want to beat this kick up something crazy. So let's take this over here and let's create a kick chain here. This is where having certain plugins like Smack Attack is really helpful. The power of your sound design lays in your source sounds because it comes with its own textures and the plugins that you lay on top of it, at least in my opinion. Some folks may feel differently. That's crazy. So all of this is the attack is boosted, and this is a Waves plugin called Smack Attack. I use this on the majority of my snares. The output is boosted a bit. The sustain is at 0. It's on the clipping option. The dry wet is at about 50%, and I shaped the attack like this. That's the next move, is to now take knock and then just add some more of that. I don't think like this is why knock was such an important plug-in to the producer community, because it's made by a sound designer. Yes, it'll beef up the sounds you're making within your beat, but as a sound designer, he's adding these effects chains that used to take so many more steps. Now they're sitting right in here and they work with the sounds that you give them. So I may take this, experiment with the different saturations if it's necessary. And mind you, we haven't even EQ'd. Like, this is just, I don't want to do too much on that, but I like where that's going. All right, cool. Here's where I may start doing like EQing. I just want to see what other textures are lying in these frequencies that are dormant. We know there's a lot of emphasis here. What's in here? We may even get some of the textures from the original hi-hat just doing this, just sweeping through. Don't forget all these sounds that we have. And this sound right here all started from this Beatmaker plugin by Splice. There. So this is the process for me. This may be a lot of steps for some people. It's not for me because I've done it so many times, but it's enjoyable for me because that means that I can take literally any sound that is close in frequency, chop it, trim it, and really start to nail it as something else. I'll give you another example. This will be a quicker one. Let's take this clap, excuse me, and let's render it as a new audio, and then take it up here. Let's beef it up with the normalize. First thing I'm going to do once again is shape it. So I'm going to actually change the length. All right, now that I have that, let's add some resonance. Let's mess with the pogo effect. Do you kind of hear where it's turning into yet? All right, sweet. So let's just do a hi-hat pattern. Oh, interesting. Boost the highs. What do you have? Decent hi-hat, but it definitely can use some more textures, which is why I would use a plugin like Texture. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but we talked about it in the last stream. If you've never seen Texture before, Texture literally will do some of the layering that we already accomplished. It will do this for you because it has sounds that are built in that you can use to layer your sounds. So we have this hi-hat pattern that got created from a clap, but when I press play, it gives you all of these factory presets based upon what you're trying to create. So let's go to the percussion and let's just see what kind of layers we can add with this. So I turned down the mix knob first right now just to get some kind of a layer on there, right? The dope thing about using Texture is that I can actually manipulate the sample itself that it's using, and I can change the pitch of it. So let's go over here. Change the density. And the reason I'm playing it as a pattern and not a one shot is just to see what it would sound like if somebody actually used it. So now that clap that we turned into a hi-hat, now has this gyro over the top of it. All of this stuff has just been hi-hats and claps that I've showed you so far. And I'm going to show you some other plugins that make this process even easier, and you're allowed to use these plugins. For instance, Hats is a plugin by AudioThing. Basically, they give you these source sounds. Like, there's literally no reason to steal sounds from another pack to make a pack. Another one to look into is Ting. This one, I do a lot of my percussion work in. And you can manipulate all these sounds one by one. So they've already pre-recorded these for you. We have the kick, we have the hi-hat. We're gonna work on the snare next. Let's go with, I think they had a drill kit that I wanted. Yeah, where's the drill kit? London Streets Drill. That's a good source sound to mess around with. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's take this. We're going to render it. Then drag this in. And we're going to actually take this to its own channels. Now what I'll do is I'll start to kind of use plugins that are not specifically for snares to create textures that I would not have expected. Another one that I use from Native Instruments is called Dirt. Dirt really messes around with those sounds that you have and creates some nasty sounds. I just love the way it sounds. So if I take this singular sound, take the length of it, and then take this. This is my process. I mean, I was trying to turn that drill snare into a more powerful drill snare, end up coming with a quick release clap. Let's mess around with this stereo delay. This is like how I'll have all these different sounds that come from one source sound, and then I'll just go back to what I was doing. I'll take this and then I'll save as and then add it to a folder. Now I'm hearing something. This is where it's important to like really pay attention to how the sounds are fading in and fading out. So I'm gonna do one thing first. I'm gonna turn the declicking mode to generic. So it's at the end of the sound that's creating that issue. Okay, so then let's go ahead and fade that. And actually, we're not going to use Dirt for this one. We're going to use texture for this one, like I showed you before. So let's go ahead and get texture and then see what sounds that can be generated literally from the factory presets. So let's try Bite. That's already crazy. That's another snare already. Already like this. Clicking on this section over here allows you to take any sound that they have already in here. So we started off with that. We could even turn this snare into a female yeah. Can you see how this, you can have just a endless amount of sounds that you can do literally having this. This to me is a for sure go-to if you are in a sound design. Come on. But as you do this, that source sound starts to become yours. So let's actually record some sounds. And mind you, I'm just kind of breezing through this process. I like to make sure that I have like the booth up so that I don't get too much of the room noise depending on what sound it is. But when it comes to percussion instruments, you want to turn the mic down and get those at a low volume because you're going to get more of the dynamics, more of the dynamic range, I should say. So let's take this and let's actually record this in. Let's take this pattern that we did and take it to its own channel. So I'm taking out that low end because it's not necessary. I don't want to go too high, like I said, on the high end because it's going to take away from some of the crunchiness of it. It's going to put the focus elsewhere. Take this widener, or this wider. This is a free effect, by the way, wider. And something about doing this gives me an idea to add a flanger. Mind you, I know it sounds like I'm just teaching some sound design. This is exactly what I did for Westside Rage. Just so you know, I'm not just teaching a general course on sound. This is exactly what I did for Westside Rage. All right, so we're going to arm this for recording, and I'm going to actually record some claps. That last one was kind of fire. Now we're going to do the first thing that I like to apply to the claps. Smack attack. I need to hear what I have. Before I start EQing, I like to hear what I have. Come on now. Once again, my go-to, not plug-in. Could be a ooh. That snare is sexy. Yeah, that one right there. Oh, that one right there. Oh my God. I told you, look, the best sounds come from the sounds you already were born with. Your hands. So what I'm hearing is there's a mid frequency at the very end. It sounds like a lot of air. Now I can kind of get away by taking the fade out knob, and let's actually see what it looks like with the other sounds. So now that I have this, I can take this now consolidated sound and run it through another chain. Now let's actually use texture one more time to see if we can get a different type of snare out of this. So mind you, that's the sound that it's adding, is plastic clicks. If you listen really closely, you'll be able to hear the plastic clicks over the top of the snare. This sound. But you see why this is so crucial to the process? All right, sweet. So we have that. Last thing I want to cover is the melodic instruments on here. With Splice, this Astra plugin, low on the CPU, and as you can imagine, because of how many sounds get updated all the damn time on Splice, there's a endless database of presets. Add another one. So now let's take that 808 that we created. Let's throw this into the mix. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because as I play the 808s, it helps me to see how much I can actually use it. Some sounds sound amazing as one shots, and then you start putting them along a beat and you'll start to see they don't really have any presence. So what I'm doing now is seeing, If I use this in the context of a beat, what is it missing? And as I listen to this, it's missing a little bit of the dirt of an 808, the presence. So then I basically take this new 808, take it to a new channel, and then give it what is lacking. So what I want to do is try a guitar distortion just to see what that would do for this. So I'm going to use Manny V and Other Waves plugin, distortion stereo, and just see what sounds can be created. Westside Rage by Curtis King, exclusively on Splice.com, available now.